All right, welcome, folks. Mil-Spec Ops Monkey here. This is going to be your Monday, September 27th, 2021 sit rep coming to you live from the great state of Texas. And without further ado, let me click on over to our main board here. Make sure you hit that like, subscribe, and bell for notification. And right now we're sitting at about 125 up, which is pretty light. It was up to around 320 and some change earlier today. Not a lot going on in the skies. A couple things going, but really not a lot from a military perspective over the U.S. today. It was kind of quiet. We do have our normal sentries. If you've noticed that they start to kind of linger in these little areas now over Louisiana, South Texas, and then up here. Don't think there's really enough congestion to really justify all three of those. So they were probably doing something other than air traffic control. And of course, we've got some interesting flights. I'm going to have to show you guys from a data perspective of what's going on. Now, our country is honestly, with the immigration going on right now and a rogue government, we are under siege, man. And this is just, it's insane when you kind of step back away from it all and look at the data. And so that's what I want to show you tonight. We track through the news. I try to kind of pull everything together, just show you where it's going on in the news, what the media is saying, and then bounce it against what we see in the skies, and to really kind of litmus test as whether or not we were actually being told the truth. And obviously, up to this point, we know they were just completely not being truthful, which is what they normally do. I mean, we kind of have grown to suspect that. Just amazing the things that they will tell us and then turn around and do something completely different. And there was a playbook that folks have done that before, and it's usually some pretty tyrannical leaders that are pulling that kind of stunt. You can go back to Germany in 1938, 1945. You can go over to other communist regimes, and they did a lot of the same stuff. They'll say one thing and be doing something completely different. And so here we are again today. It has reared its ugly head, and we're just onto it now. So, all right, so let's get over here real fast. We'll look at Flashbang Schedule. Then we'll take a look at TFRs and kind of get through it on the board here. But currently, I think we've got 8 volcanoes that are actually ash alerts. Just as a data point, we won't spend any time on this at all. But I will tell you this one over here, La Palma, has definitely got everybody's attention because that one is quite spectacular. On what's going on there. So we get over here to Flashbang Schedule. I did see somebody post something earlier today that had an overlay between Flashbang and Mr. Bigley. I think that was completely fabricated. I have not been able, I've been on this site since this morning, and in the afternoon, still that schedule, I saw it start out as a very small 3 data points, and it's actually into a full-blown schedule now. I never saw anything like that. So I think somebody has actually manipulated this data and pushed it out there. Okay, so the heads up. I didn't see it, and everybody was talking about it, and so I don't know. Here we are. This is the site right here. So those that saw it, you know what I'm talking about. So okay, so it looks like Flashbang is actually kicking off today. About puts his pants on around 10 a.m. You got both he and Bob Marley together, so we got the duo going there. And then, of course, this was the big highlight of the day. Of course, they can't look at anything else. This is their focus point. All right. So looks like they wrapped up pretty early, done by 1:30, and that was it. So let's get away from that real fast. I'm going to pull up the TFRs. Not too much happening out there in terms of TFRs on our map here today. We do have this one I'm going to pop in on. And that's an air show right there. That's going to be your senior living center right here at the Brown Zone. Got this beautiful little wave producer out here in the middle of the Atlantic. But let's get into this. This has all of the characteristics of a VIP. Yeah, that's going to be VIP. September 29th. So that's in 2 days. Looks like he's headed into old Chicago. And so that's the only real thing of significance on right now. Everything else is kind of our normal, usual TFRs, okay? All right, so we won't spend too much time on that. Let me back out of that, and let's get over here. Now, I want to point out a couple things as we get into the data points. One of the things, too, I wanted to show you, these big balloons. This is off of the Customs and Border Patrol website. This is, if you've ever seen these blimps, these are basically set up for drug trafficking, but they are data gatherers. I just want to show you how along the border these things are in place. They're down here in the Keys, and if you've ever been out, in those general areas, you've seen them. They're pretty high up, and they, but not nearly what the regular loon balloons are. But these are, they're up, got some altitude on them, but they are basically eyes on boats and anything going on the border. Pretty amazing technology. So that is up. We never really talk about them because they don't really move anywhere, and they're just pretty much stationary right there. Okay, so as we're talking about a border, let's kind of segue into the next round. All right, so this is one of the articles that came up. It says many Haitian migrants at Texas border are being released into the U.S. That's one thing we've been talking about. I was telling you, based on the flights over the last week, that there's not enough flights to justify the numbers that they're saying are going back. And so this big crowd, at one point, the numbers were pretty high. They're saying like 17,000 was the number that it got to. Now, let me just show you some things as we get into this. So this is from the knucklehead who's running Homeland Security now, admitting that 12,000 of the illegal Haitians out of 17,000 were released in the U.S. So it's 70-something% were basically released into our country. So like I said, we knew that already because we were tracking the flights. And so, yeah, those folks are all into our country along with the poppies and the bananas. We are being completely overrun, and it's staggering. Now, they were released, so that means they didn't go to a camp or anything else. They were just released out into it, okay? Probably gave them a bunch of money and said, come back to court at some future date, okay? So let's talk about that a little bit more. I will tell you of the other balance. So you had 12,000 released into our country of the 17. There was a big scramble. A lot of them were actually leaving Del Rio and trying to get to other borders over in Arizona, et cetera. So they said that a lot of them were actually getting on buses and headed over to Mexico City and to Monterrey. And then they were trying to get to Nogales on the Mexican border, which is right there by Arizona, to try and get through again. Now, I did hear an account today from a sheriff that was actually talking about there was a big ruckus going on the border in Arizona because they were trying to get across there. So now it gets better. So let me just show you this. This was put out. This is a Zero Hedge wrote this today, but evidently you've got another 4,000 or so down in Panama that were just passing through that they accounted for. But on the other side of that, in Colombia, this beach town where they take the boats to get over so that they can come up through Central America, they have another 16,000 that are stuck there that are trying to get through. So doing the quick maths, we got another 20,000 Haitians that are about to roll up through Central America to our southern border in the coming weeks, okay? So 20,000 plus 17,000. I mean, we're just under 40,000 Haitians coming in. We've got coconuts that have been rolling in here. We know 37,000 are in so far. That's the first wave. The next wave is already coming as soon as they get past this quarantine period. And so those numbers are starting to stack up very quickly. And they're higher than what we're being told. They soften those numbers, okay? All right, so there is that. Now we'll start looking at the flights here just so I can show you what's going on. And I keyed onto something on a flight I tracked the other day coming out of Norfolk, and it was kind of an out of a sequence deal. You don't see them very often, and so this one kind of dovetails into that. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. Let me make sure before I get too far ahead of myself here. I just want to show you guys something as we talk about these camps and just the overall number, because if you're paying attention, you'll notice that it's starting to kind of pop in and look like this. Now, I will tell you that around the world, it didn't look like this except for in one time frame around World War II when you had a lot of camps set up, okay? But every one of these, the white dots that you see on the screen right now are CDC, what they call well centers or quarantine centers, okay? Those are the white dots. There's 20 of them around the U.S., And on top of that, the little black eyes with the orange circle are the immigration camps that have popped up just to support the poppies. I know there's data out there for all of the bananas that have been coming in. 100%. I know that. I have not found that data yet. So if you look at just what's going on all the way from Puerto Rico to Hawaii, up here in Alaska, and count it and tally it all up, we got 32 camps right now, currently, across the United States. 32, okay, to take care of this. So if you think for a second this government who's talking about mandating stuff isn't setting this up for us downstream, man, I got some oceanfront property right here in the great state of Dallas, or Texas, up here in Dallas for you, because that is the biggest setup, and they're doing it under the disguise of being immigration. And now let me show you. You remember the other day we talked about Guantanamo Bay and how they were setting up. They were saying we're going to set up a detention facility down at Guantanamo Bay. And then, of course, they happen to be setting up $15 million in a new court system there as well. Just, you know what? Think about it. Just let that set in. It doesn't sound right, does it? Yeah, we're being completely, they're just lying to us all the way through. They have no intention on shutting any of this stuff down. In fact, I'm going to show you some of the flights that makes me wonder if they don't already have some of this set up at Guantanamo Bay. Okay. Now, this is going to be Biggs Army Airfield we see on our screen. I will tell you there's not too much going on. Now, that SPA 709 right there, Sierra Pacific, can't speak. That's a 737-500. That one, I believe, that came in from Tucson, and I think that right there is a flight bringing in some folks. Okay, I do know they've been transferring back and forth from Tucson with the coconuts. So that right there is probably coming back. I would imagine that is an airline we're going to start to see some efforts out of. Now, if we look over here at departures, we can see we have, that's not one. This one right here is the one that got my attention. Now, this flight is a 757-200. Typically, when I watch things come out of Biggs and go to Guantanamo Bay, I say it's a troop replenishment. However, we just had that take place. Something doesn't sit right. And given the Norfolk flight, I'm wondering if they aren't already taking people to a temporary stand-up on Guantanamo Bay. And I say that we're going to look closer at that flight here in just a second. But that thing rolled out, that's today at 7:09 a.m. early this morning to Guantanamo Bay. Okay. Then you got this one here, went up to Anchorage, Alaska. That's Omni Air. So Omni's been getting in on the business as well in terms of moving immigrants. Now, you remember we went back to talking about camps and things of that nature. I know there's stuff up in Alaska we're not seeing, and I'm willing to bet somebody probably has eyes on it, and we just haven't heard about it yet. Okay, but they're sending a lot of folks up there. Okay, okay. Now we're gonna look closer at that flight that I was just telling you about. I went to Guantanamo Bay this morning. It's a 757-200, and this is just, like I said, it's a data point. It came out of Biggs, went there, and now it's let me see if it did depart. I think it did actually. It's en route right now. So yeah, it's headed back to Biggs. Okay. And so we'll watch to see if it comes back and forth. If you start to see this thing running back and forth every day, that means the camps are already stood up at Guantanamo Bay. Okay. Now, I'm going to show you in a minute, we get over to Guantanamo Bay, why I think those camps are already there. We've seen how fast they can erect these things. And they've got the space down there. We know that, right? On the other side of the runway, there's plenty of space out there. So, okay, there's that data point. Again, it came in, went back. Now, if I see that thing roll back in again, then it's confirmed, I think, in as much as we can confirm it, that they are moving poppies. Or not poppies, but coconuts down to Guantanamo Bay. Okay. All right. Now, here's the other one. This is Laughlin and Del Rio, Texas. This is Laughlin Air Force Base. If we just kind of look at the board, I want to show you, we've got the Omni Air starting to go now. They're arriving in from El Paso. Okay. And then they're departing, they're going back and forth to El Paso. So these guys are probably, if I had to guess, they're taking folks probably, I doubt it's bananas. It could be, but it's probably the coconuts that are getting separated and moved to these different locations. Okay. All right. There is that. Again, we've got, Swift Air, Southwest, Omni, Hawaiian Air. We've got so many airlines now just kind of jumping in on this immigration business, and they're making a killing. And you know who's paying for it? Us. All right. Now, I did notice that they aren't just flying to Port-au-Prince, that a lot of these flights are actually going over to this other location, which is Cap-Haitian International Airport, which is on the other side of Haiti. Okay. And so we can see the arrivals coming out of Laredo, another one out of Laredo. And that is, let me see, that Global Crossing Airlines, Gemini. That's another one. And then coming out of Valley. So there are 4 flights right there that are bringing people in. And looks like their departures are headed back to get more. Okay. So there is that. And that looks to be kind of the new spot where they're dropping them. Port-au-Prince has still got some going in, though, as we look. This is the arrival board today. You'll see things. There's Laredo right there. Eastern Airlines even getting in on it. So there's Eastern. We've got World Atlantic Airways here. That's a MD-80 that rolled in. Another World MD-80 from Valley, coming out of Valley. But those are your arrivals. There's only, 3 or 4 right there. So it looks like they're shifting and bringing people over to the other airport there on island. And so that is, again, data point. We're going to watch Guantanamo Bay. So let's get over here to Guantanamo Bay. Now, remember, I showed you that a flight flew in today and 7 o'clock this morning. And you're going to see there's nothing on the board. All right. This is scheduled. These are en route scheduled, and these are their departure scheduled. That's our regular flight, 631 JS. It's going to be a Tuesday, Friday flight, right? United Airlines coming out of Jacksonville. That is bringing in probably people for the trial that's going on with the 9/11 stuff. Arrival board is clear. Now, even if we go in here and look at the arrival board, I looked at it earlier today. I don't see anything that came in from Biggs today. Okay. So they're wiping the board. Why would you leave all this stuff on and then wipe those flights? All right. Yeah, that's probably because we got coconuts coming inbound. All right. So, again, pay attention to that. I just showed you the flights coming in and out. We know that Flashbang was actually talking about setting up a tent facility on Guantanamo Bay from our article the other day. I think that was Gitmo 2. Let me just double check. No, that's the original Catherine Herridge thing. That's $15 million for the detention center. Yeah, I actually already took that off my scenes. But, yeah, so they probably erected that pretty quickly. Now, there was a flight. Let me see if I still have it up right here. This is the flight, I think, that came down to basically bring the stuff to stand up all the tent cities, okay? It popped on. I watched it come out of Norfolk, Virginia, and it just kind of hit that same trajectory they always do when they're heading to Guantanamo Bay, right altitude. And I was like, that one's going to the spa. And you don't see that very often. Again, this is a C-130, but that was on Friday. And now today, over the weekend, they built everything up. They got, the tent city stood up for these folks. And now Monday, they're bringing them in. It's crack it on Monday morning. So that kind of fits. Like I said, this is me. I'm not, I don't have anybody telling me that's going on, but boy, if we see those flights going back and forth to the spa and not showing on the board, continuing, that's because of international. Think about this now, right? First you got something bad from a racial perspective with a cowboy on a horse that is taken out of context. Then the next thing you hear, mass deportation, that's going to happen. And all optics, right? Because what do we find out? 75% of them are actually coming into the country. So only 25% were mass deported. And then all of a sudden you bring them to Guantanamo Bay, which has got all eyes on it. Bad optics right there. So what would you do? You clean the board so they can't see what's coming and going. Because, man, can you imagine the outcry if they found out that they were bringing coconuts to Guantanamo Bay to a prison location. And yeah, so, but again, you go back to these camps that they're standing up and all of the indicators. I think this is just, these things are going to empty out and then they're going to refill them up. And so, just pay attention, close attention, folks. I'm telling you, my spidey senses, man, do not, just as I see it and I gather it and I collect the data on it, it's got a really bad overtone to it. Okay. So as we've been watching these flights, Guantanamo Bay, we watched the agency flights. We've been tracking this one here, this N-183PA. He's the only one that's really kind of out doing stuff right now. And I just want to back up to show he was in Germany a couple of days ago, and it looks like he is now down in Nigeria and into Niger. And that was 8 hours ago. So they're back into that zone again. Now, remember, this particular area in here is one area that gets a lot of Ebola and some pretty rare diseases and stuff. So anytime I see the agency coming in here, I just don't think it's for humanitarian. They're up to something, So we just got to watch that because, said dark winter. You're hearing it in that word coming up in the mainstream media already. So pay attention, okay? All right, so let's get a little closer in, kind of deep dive in on some of these. This is going to be our Swift Air flights that rolled out this morning, 6:48 a.m. down to Haiti. This is actually going to be a flight came out of Valley, which is Harlingen, Texas, and that was one. So they're still moving people out, and you can see even on Sunday, they had flights that were kind of rolling back and forth. Miami, I think they're probably taking some folks there too, but. Pay close attention because, like I said, the numbers aren't going to add up to anything, and we've got another 20,000 about to roll right up in here in the next couple weeks. So, about to get out of control. This one here, another one for today, Laredo, Texas, over to that same place, Capitan, I guess is how maybe it rolls a little better. There in Haiti, it's on the other side of the island. And let's see here. We get over to the live flights just to see. Now, the board's changed up a little bit. This is going to be your Swift Air flights. You can see them currently. You got one rolling out of Haiti, headed back to Texas border, and then this one here, Texas border out to West Coast. And then that one, I don't know, that one's come out of Colorado, it looks like, or maybe Nebraska, headed to the West Coast. So, yeah, there you go, Nebraska. So, yeah, San Antonio, that's probably got bananas on it, headed to Phoenix. This one is probably, I doubt it's bringing people in. It's probably coming back to get another load, if I had to guess. All right. Now, this is Live World Airways. This is another one we were watching. Now, earlier today, this board was pretty full. Right now, there's nothing showing. So they've already completed all their flights for today. But I did show you them on the board going in and out of Port-au-Prince. Okay. All right. Another one of the Swift Air flights landed 2 hours, 35 minutes ago, coming out of Haiti back to Harlingen, Texas. Really interesting if that's empty or if they're bringing some select folks back in. You just can't tell, That's the problem with not trusting your government because you just don't know what you're really getting, okay? And N629SW, this one actually was headed down. You can see it going from Guatemala City up to Brownsville, so that's probably bringing a load of bananas up. Handpicked, and because I imagine slim pickings, and I seriously doubt that they're taking people down, but they could be. You never know. We do have the Trump effect that still kind of works into play on all this, where the Border Patrol is taking advantage of sending these folks back, and so that may be what we have. This could be some bananas getting sent back, but don't know. All right. So this is just going to be a aircraft I caught today flying, just a point of interest. Landed about 2 hours, 36 minutes ago, but I watched them doing routes here. Now, they came out of Oklahoma City. Now, I do know there's a spy school up here, and so my understanding, normally we see them kind of going up here north of Oklahoma City, not too often down in this general area, but anytime you see that right there, flying those tight grids and circles, that's basically you're doing the sandbox and the Stingray stuff, right? They're gathering cell data and headed back. So that took on earlier today, and so just another data point. May have been training, may not have been training. If you go back and watch Enemy of the State, man, what was it they always said when they got caught? Oh, just an STO, man, standard training operation. So who knows? Who knows what to believe these days? I just know Big Brother is doing this quite a bit. Okay. All right. Now let me just bump back over to our main board here, which is our whiteboard, and waiting for that to populate. See if we've got anything of interest up here right now. I do see some reaches starting to exit. Looks like that one's rolling out. See if it's coming in or out. Kind of hard to tell. I don't have any kind of a trail on. There we go. Yeah, it looks like it's actually departing. 29,000 feet, climbing out, coming out of Maryland. So that's probably headed over. I would imagine we're going to start to see that increase as we get to the tail end of these 14-day quarantines. And as people get inoculated on the other side, hopefully they're taking this time to kind of screen some of the poppies, to make sure we're not letting some bad guys into our country, which, they're in there. They're in the mix. They always are. So, okay. Well, listen, that is going to do it for today on the Sit Rep. We will be back on Wednesday with our next one. And stay tuned, man. Hang on to your, just keep your powder dry. That's all I can say. And stay frosty because, man, this stuff is changing rapidly, and there is no telling which direction it's going to go. Again, we'll keep our eye on all the tents and the locations that are standing up because we're up to 32 right now, I think it was, and growing, and that's probably just a small number of what is really out there. Okay, so all right, listen, you guys, again, stay frosty. We'll talk to you soon. God bless. Monkey out. Check out the latest gear and products at monkeyworksus.com.